Hey guys, another video for the how-to playlist. I've been asked a number of times recently, actually I've been asked a lot of times over the last year or so, about apologising, how to apologise in Japan. I've sort of avoided the subject really because it's almost impossible to explain it in a video or even a series of videos. I think it's a really good example of one of those things that it's best to learn by watching. Because it's a big part of Japanese culture and Japanese communication. So even in everyday communication with people here, we apologize a lot. You know, you'll hear it anytime you hear people communicating in Japanese. You'll hear sumimasen, 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 sumimasen. You know, and it's just part of the communication. It's sort of the part of the being polite thing, so that you're apologizing all the time. You know, I mean, you guys might have seen a video I did with I was talking to a Japanese policeman, and we were both doing it. I was doing it to him, he was doing it to me, and it's just you know, part of Japanese communication. If you watch variety TV here, or any sort of TV here, you watch two people communicating, it's just full on sumimasen, sumimasen. It's just a big part of Japanese communication. So when it actually comes to apologizing for having done something wrong, or having made a mistake, it's really complex, and it depends on the situation. It depends on who you are. It depends on your relationship with the other person, you know, which is always complex in Japan, what your relationship is with the other person, whether it's co-worker or someone, you know, friend or family member, or someone higher or lower, or it depends on the situation. It depends what you did, how bad it was. So it's really complex, and I think, and it involves, in the Japanese language, there's a lot of ways of apologizing as well. A lot of different phrases that can be used depending on the circumstance. So again, it's really, really complex. So I think it's a good example of, to learn this one, this is a really observing one, and learning through observing and watching what other people do, combined with a good Japanese teacher. You guys know I don't pretend to be a Japanese teacher, so I won't even try. But there's just too many anyway. I was talking to my friend about this, my Japanese friend about this, and we started making a list of the different ways of apologising. There's just too many. It's impossible to list them all, and then to explain, okay, well, you know, you'd use this one in this there's just a million circumstances. So you really need to learn by observing, by you know, learning from your Japanese teacher, you know, the different phrases and how to pronounce them, how to use them, combined with bowing, which of course is a whole art in itself. You know, how much to bow, how deep to bow, and again, it depends on your relationship with the person. So it's really complex. What I can say though that might be helpful is, one thing is, of course, when we actually do make a mistake, you know, a simple example, you walk into someone's house, you forget to take your shoes off, or, you know, something simple like that. Of course we apologise at the time, you know. Oh no, sumimasen, you know, and you apologise, and you say all the polite things then, and you apologise. One thing I have noticed though is, in other cultures, it probably wouldn't be uncommon if I made a big mistake today and embarrassed myself, or did something to upset you today, that next time I saw you, you know, in a week's time, I might say to you, oh look, I'm really sorry about last time, that was really embarrassing, I'm really sorry about that. And that would just show you that I had some genuine remorse, right? And that I genuinely felt bad about what had happened. In Japan, they tend not to do that. You usually apologise at the time, and then you both forget it. Because from their point of view, the next time you see each other, you don't want to rehash that bad experience. And you don't, these guys are much more sensitive usually about this sort of stuff, and they don't want to relive it. So, you know, whenever you see them the next time, whether it be the next day or the next week or the next month or whatever, it's best not to remind them about it. They don't want to remember. If you do remind them about it, and I have seen that happen, where a foreigner has said, you know, hey look, sorry about that last time I saw you, and they go, oh, okay, let's forget it. You can see that their body language and their face, they just don't want to think about it again. So that's one piece of advice that I would pass on, or one observation that I'd pass on. You know, apologise at the time in the appropriate way, and then next time you see them, don't mention it. I think the only way that you can really compensate for a mistake like that is to just be on our best behaviour next time. You know, I think this is a human nature thing, any country, isn't it? Any country, any society, any people. You know, if someone does the wrong thing, really, you know, they've lost some points, and the only way to sort of compensate is to do the right thing from then on, you know. So we just need to show, of course, we need to make sure we don't make the same mistake again, whatever it was, and we just need to show our better side from then on and make sure that we don't make the same mistake again or do the same wrong thing again that we're apologising for, which is the topic of the video. So that would be my first observation, would be to don't mention it again. What was the other one? Oh, excuses. This is a big one. This is a big one. If somebody is late, so you know they're late for a meeting because they missed the train or because the train was held up unexpectedly or something, they might apologise. Hey, I'm very sorry for being late. And they might say the train was delayed or something like that. You do hear people explaining things here sometimes, but it's not so common. And again, I think in some other societies, explaining things is appropriate, I think, in many other societies, isn't it? You know, if there's something like we're late for something or if there's some problem and there's a reason for it, explaining the reason or telling the person the reason is acceptable. Isn't it? You know, so look, I'm sorry about that, but this. Sorry I'm late, but the train was delayed, or I'm sorry I walked on your floor, I didn't know, I can't read the kanji sign, or you know, it's sort of natural in other societies to give the reason for the problem or the mistake. But in Japanese society, one thing I've noticed is they see that as making an excuse, similar to what a child might do. Oh, I didn't, you know. So it's usually best, something like I'm late, the train was delayed, sorry about that, I'm very, very sorry, I'm very sorry, is sort of okay sometimes, but usually giving an excuse is not good. There's actually a phrase in Japanese that means I'm very, very sorry, there is no excuse for my bad behaviour. There's a phrase that means something like that. And it's a bit of an example, gives you a bit of a clue as to why they see these things is, you know, giving excuses for things isn't necessarily the way to go. So I'd add that too. So the first thing I'd say is if you do make a mistake, apologise at the time and don't be reminding them about it later on. The other thing I would suggest would be try and avoid making excuses. Even though we see it as explaining, and I did have a problem with this when I first came here. It's natural if we do something wrong to explain, oh look, I'm sorry but in my country this, or I'm sorry but I didn't know that, or you know, it's usually, you know, it's sort of natural for us to want to explain these things. It's really not the go here, so my advice would be don't do it. You know, just apologise profusely and use the polite Japanese. This keeps making me think about something. Someone gave me some good advice when I first came here. I couldn't speak Japanese, and someone said to me when I first came here, you're better off to be really polite in English sometimes. And I think unless your Japanese, if your Japanese level's really good, then learn the correct Japanese things. But it's so complex. Japanese language is so complex, and knowing the right apology for the right circumstance is really difficult. So I think sometimes, you know, if you use the wrong Japanese at the wrong time, it can actually be rude, or it can be seen as you're not being polite enough. So I think if you come here and you don't speak English, don't speak Japanese, and you're using like a dictionary and trying to get by with that, I think sometimes our demeanour, you know, if you walk into some place and you do the wrong thing and they go, oh, and you go, oh, I'm very, very sorry, I'm very, very sorry, and you're very polite in English, sometimes it's the go, even if that person doesn't speak English, which they probably don't. You know what I mean? So just along the line of the apology thing, I think if you're just here for a holiday and you do something wrong and someone goes, oh, and you go, oh, look, I'm very, very sorry, just sometimes it's better to speak English, I think, even if the other person doesn't understand it, just because you can get yourself, there's a million examples of this, people using Japanese badly and getting in more trouble because they've just said something that they thought, you know, is different from what they thought it meant. So yeah, so I know that that's not real helpful to you guys, but this is just such a complex thing, you know. Obviously you can learn from your Japanese teacher, you can learn some polite apologies in Japanese, but as to when to use which one and what else, a very difficult subject. But I would say yes, don't remind the person of the mistake that you made after it's over. You know, apologise at the time, and after it's all over, let's pretend it never happened. That's the sort of the style of thing that they do. And yeah, avoid making excuses. Other than that, avoid making the mistake in the first place is probably a good strategy too. So anyway, More videos coming soon.